Okay, let's talk big picture, 10,000 foot level aerial overview. The only reason we're here today and the only reason we're going to go on this walk is because of that natural resource sitting out there in Washington State called the Columbia River. Take the Columbia River out of the picture, we don't have jobs here, right? There's no agricultural industry in this valley. There's no orchards, there's no vineyards. We don't have that playground to play on. So let's just talk big picture Columbia River, because that's the common denominator that makes everything in this valley work. So long before we're born, the Columbia is already serving people, right? So not only is it serving people as a primary food source for the early peoples, secondly, it became the primary highway across the state of Washington before J.J. Hill brought the railroad in. So you used to have stern wheelers going up and down the Columbia, carrying wheat and cargo and whatever needed to go up and down. It was the major highway. So primary food source, early peoples, major highway before the railroad came in. Thirdly, if you drive through the valley, you'll see apple orchards, you'll see pear orchards, you'll see cherry orchards, you'll see grape vineyards. Take the Columbia River out of the valley, none of those orchards are here. None of those vineyards. They all disappear because we don't get the precipitation needed to support them. So they're fed by the Columbia River, right? Fourth, a great playground, right? If you get to go paddle boarding or get on your boat, go fishing, go swimming. So it's still serving people. And that brings us to number 5, the big one that we're going to talk about today, and that's taking energy from that river and turning it into mechanical energy, turning it into electrical energy, turning it into light energy in people's houses. So we call that hydroelectric power. When that natural resource meets the human resource, I'm talking about a handful of people sitting out here on the bank of the river one day saying, that river sure does have a lot of current. It's got a lot of mechanical horsepower. Anyway, we calculate it's got about 1.5 million mechanical horsepower of kinetic energy. And a handful of people out here thinking to themselves, boy, if we could harness that energy, and if we could build a wall, and if we can drop water on turbines, we can change Chelan County forever. And we can change Washington State and the Pacific Northwest forever. But we got a big task if we're going to build a wall across that river and harness that energy. That's the human resource that began this story. It's people who had great big dreams, great big visions, and they were visionaries, and they put feet to their dreams. A lot of times we dream, but we don't put feet to our dreams, so it just stays a dream. They literally brought dream to reality. All right, let's talk about this facility. This is one of 3 projects we own, right? Got Rock Island Dam south of here. We got this one, and we got Chelan, and then we got that little guy up at Stehekin too. We kind of count him in too. This one was built, like I said, between 1956 and 1961. $273 million turnkey operation. Came in 6 months ahead of schedule and $10 million under budget. How's that? Wow. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And it was designed, are you ready for this? With number 2 lead pencils with erasers and T-squares. They didn't have all the computer schematic type stuff that we have today. So here's what they did. They put in 1 million cubic yards of concrete in the river. And each cubic yard of concrete weighs about 4,000 pounds. So there's 4 billion pounds of concrete in the river right here. This is a true gravity dam. 4 billion pounds of concrete, center of gravity pushing it right down toward the center of the earth, okay? There's 1.267 billion pounds of hydro, which is water, static, it's not moving. It's just the weight of the water laying against the wall that really would like to push the wall downstream, but 4 billion pound center of gravity beats 1.267 billion every time, right? This is the transformer deck. A lot of energy transfer right here. So it's from that end to that end, 1,038 feet. It's a little more than 3 football fields long. That's the linear space you need for these great big generation units we have. Basically, we generate at 14,500 volts, so 3-phase. So we've got 3 copper buses. Think of a 2x4, but it's not wood, it's copper. So we've got 3 copper buses, just like copper 2x4s, coming out of our generation unit where that big magnet's spinning. Comes all the way up through some tubes, and each one of those is 14,000 volts. That goes into that unit right there, and it steps it up to 230,000 volts. Because 230,000 volts high voltage can go long distances on a power line with minimal energy loss. So you turn around and look at the mountain up here, see the power poles? Yeah. And look all the way up on the top power poles? So I'm saying, once we get on there, any light bulb in the western half of the country in less than a second. It's really cool stuff. But anyway, so these are step-up transformers. We have 11 of them. We have a 125-ton gantry crane. trolley track right here. Some people say railroad track, officially quote, they're trolley tracks. One over there so that gantry crane can ride up and down the entire transformer deck. And it can lower great big concrete walls in the river right in front of the turbine intake. So if we need to dewater a unit to get in, get our employees in, put that big wall in front, that seals it so the water can't get through, it protects them. And that's how we get in to do maintenance. All right, same is true here, 1,038 feet, so 3 football fields down the turbine pit floor. About 78 feet under the water right here, right? Came down from 6 all the way down to 1. Come over here, don't fall in, but take a peek. Always look up before you look down, just in case they're lowering something, you don't want to get dinged. So we look up, we're safe. Now we can look down. Whoa. That'll get you down to what we call the tunnel. I'll show you how we can get to the tunnel. It's right here. And if you kind of look down between the crack of the stairs and the wall, it's a pretty good hike.
Yeah, it is.
And when you're coming back up, that's an old-fashioned thigh master, man. You don't need to go to the gym. You just do that.
Yeah.
704, 4726. Everything is designed, that's what I'm saying, each unit is autonomous. The water comes in differently into each unit. It doesn't all come in uniformly based on the bottom of the river and what's happening with flow. But the one thing, everything is going to be adjusted to keep that guy at 90 RPMs. We're going to go down in a turbine pit. Universal precautions. You ready? If it stinks, don't inhale because it stinks. If it's wet, it's probably hydraulic fluid or oil, so it'll be slippery. If it's moving, don't grab it and hold on. That won't end well. Other than that, we'll come up just safe and sound and we'll be fine. We'll stand on that platform. You'll just be able to walk around, kind of see a shaft spinning 90 times a minute. That 852,000 pound magnet will be above your head. You won't be able to see it because of the housing for the thrust bearing. And then we're going to go down a spiral staircase. As soon as you're at the top of that spiral staircase, look over, down as far as you can go, you'll see moving water. Those are those elbow arms. This big O-ring turns. Those arms open and close. That's how you control the wicket gates. It takes about 3 minutes to go from nothing to putting power on the grid and the same amount of time to shut down. The water does all the work. We don't do anything. Look at me. That's all we do. Here's a couple of cool things for you to just plant in your heart. So our fuel source is water, right? It's free. We're not buying diesel or buying coal. It's free, it's heavy, right? We can turn 2.5 million pounds of steel with 8 million gallons of it every minute. And if you think about this, we built our motor right in the middle of our fuel source. So our fuel just runs through our motor. We don't ever have to even go to the gas station, right? So it gives us such advantages. Free, heavy, run of the river. Fuel's always coming through, which makes hydroelectric power the most cost-effective power in the United States. So 50-mile radius of where we're standing right now, least expensive energy in the country, right? It's all about the river. So when I brag on the river, I always say that it never takes any days off. It's like your heart. Once your heart starts beating as a baby, it beats until you're dead. If it stops, you're dead, right? So it works the day shift, the night shift, the swing shift, the graveyard shift. So while you go home and go to sleep tonight, one of these guys is making sure your thermostat kicks on and off, make sure your refrigerator keeps your food from spoiling, the freezer, your heat, it never stops. And when we talk about the other sources of energy, like wind, I would say clean, yep. Renewable, yep. Reliable, no. Sometimes it blows, sometimes it doesn't. Solar, clean, some ways yes. Renewable, yep, the wind blows. The sun shines, but is it reliable? Nope, the sun's on the other side. But that river, it was running long before I was born. It'll be running long after I've graduated to my next life. The river just runs and it serves. It's the greatest natural resource in the Pacific Northwest, and I think we just underestimate the value that it brings to us. So we were down, looking up. We were looking at the shaft above our head, that 852,000 pound rotor spinning. It's right under your feet. Comes out to about here, spinning around 125 mile an hour surface speed inside the stator, that little bit of air gap. We're a 3-phase generation. If I lift the top of that floor up and set that floor aside, you'd see 3 2x4s coming out, and they're copper, and they come out, they take the electricity. See those 3 pipes right there? Right up the middle, that's 3-phase, all the way up to those step-up transformers when we're on the top, where we step it up to 230 and put it out on the grid. Come on down here. If you look at the wall, you see where the wall meets the skyline? The river level is about 3 feet under the top of that wall, so you're still below the surface of the water. Of course, you got a big wall holding it back. You guys okay with heights? Okay. Just whatever you have, if you drop it, you're probably never going to get it again. So hold on to whatever's important to you. See that strong water current coming out right there?
Yeah.
That's the fish ladder. So the adult salmon come up, they're looking for a current to swim into. They'll find that right there, and that's what brings them into the fish ladder. If you look out of that piece of concrete kind of and coming out into the river, you see the water. So that's another entrance. So there's this one, that one, and there's one right at the L. As long as water's coming out, they're going to want to swim in. It's beautiful out here. That's about a 26-foot drop out there. They travel inside the column of water. Liquid H2O doesn't condense. So you can't cram a gallon of water into a quart jar. So that water doesn't condense. And so those juvenile salmon are inside that column, and they just kind of dissipate like that, and they're fine. You and I, we would not travel inside the column. We'd come out over the top and do a belly flop. We'd probably get stung. But yeah, they do really well. We can divert them into that little house over there. That's our fish sampling center. That's where we can tag fish, we can monitor fish, we can identify fish. There's a tank over there. It's got like an anesthetic in there. It's called MS-80. They can kind of just, like when you go to the dentist and they kind of make it feel like you don't care. So then we can handle them, do whatever we need to do, put them in a recovery tank, back in the pipe, and they're right on the way. But that's a big part of how we monitor statistically survival rates of juveniles coming down. So yeah, I've never tried to move. I'm going out the way I came in and loved every minute of it. You guys, on the other hand, one of you is going to be the general manager. You guys are in the right arena. Yeah.
You take that one.
No, I've just always loved what I do. I like working.
I mean, when you have this
Kids
as your office, this is pretty sweet.
Is it about as good as it gets? Yeah.